video on Facebook. I feel like we should go check it. Jake's like, well, I'm out, so we'll look. He said you could play with them. Just go play, honey.
You can play with any of those toys.
Miss Charity said.
Yeah, don't even worry about asking him.
Honey, I'm in a meeting. I need you to. Okay, it's okay if he doesn't ask you. You just go play. Miss Charity said it's fine.
But he shut the lid on it.
Okay, we'll just take the lid off. It's okay. Be nice to the toys. You hear me?
Punch him in the nose if he doesn't be nice.
I
I won't tell him
Don't
that.
tell him that.
I won't
He
encourage
will.
it.
Yeah,
encourage
and
it.
so we get over there and it's still have standing water at 8:30 last night. So
Is it still flooded this morning?
No, we squeegeed it all out and pushed it all out the back door and mopped it 75 times and it stunk.
Yeah.
But it's fine now.
All right, we'll pray for your car lot.
The car lot's fine. Don't ask prayer. I was just.
Okay. Well, I was gonna pray for it anyways. I'll pray that you sell the cars there.
Sell some cars today.
Well, I will.
We need to buy some cars. We don't have any cars on the car lot.
I noticed. I texted.
They're selling. So
I told him that the other day. I drove by there. I was like, "There's no cars out there." When I went to see Linda.
we sent a couple to the auction, and then Jake bought 3 yesterday. So, but they need way more than that.
Yeah.
Well, like 25.
Yeah.
Keep selling them. Can't get to 25.
Yeah. That's a good problem,
That's
though.
a good problem. Yeah.
All right. What else we got to pray about?
My brother left for DC this
Yeah.
morning, so if you could pray for him the next 6 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's that?
My brother, he got an internship at the Capitol in DC
Yep.
for 6 weeks. So
We'll pray for him.
he's excited, but he needs some Jesus there
It's in
too.
that atmosphere causing me prayer.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll pray for him as well. So, all right. What else we got to pray about?
Gordon's.
Yes. I just texted Delayla, asked her, because Zach was getting some guys together Thursday night. They were going to go clean up anyways. And so he said that he would just go over there. So I texted them if they would have anything for them to do if they showed up. So
Perfect.
I'm assuming they're going to have to like rip carpet and everything now, would be my guess.
I would think so.
Yeah. I'm sure.
What'd you
Yeah,
say?
it's a big hole.
Everything was.
Why don't you shut that door just a little bit so that it doesn't bleed through on this if they need something come in here? Yeah, just so they don't hear it.
It's probably gonna like.
Yeah, that's fine.
shut its-
It rained a lot after that.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. So we'll
We just
pray.
need to pray that the water will go down.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
This has got to be historical, I'm sure.
They got in their house and then they were there for 6 days and had to leave, and then they went back Saturday night and had to leave Sunday morning. Because all the rain they got Sunday morning. So, but they left for DC with my brother. So my grandpa still, I can't get to him if something happens. So
Who's 2 kids?
You do what I
Jennifer and Logan are at work. They work 9 to 3. And then they took Shannon to a facility in Oklahoma City where she's been before. JD McCarthy, my mom's really anxious about that she'll regress a lot, but she just doesn't do well if she's not with my mom. And it's too much for me to have all 3 out of their house and
Yeah.
not have a break. So she's at JD McCarthy.
I saw on the news last night, they said 3.7 inches in the last 24 hours is what Grove got as of last night.
No.
That's crazy.
My rain gauge, it showed a little over 5, so I think it varied around.
Well, and
Yeah.
that was-
Wow.
It was still raining.
Wow.
It was crazy. I've never seen so much water.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll pray for that. Anything else to pray about?
You guys closing your house this week.
Yes.
We need that to go smooth. And
Favor.
we need to go smooth and get you here.
I will pray for that.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yes.
Were you closing when?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yep. So
We got home and stuff that day. We got really early to Thursday.
My granddaughter Alexis will be doing the closing.
really,
Yes.
Oh, Alexis
She,
is?
she pulled your file. I told her.
She made
Do a good job.
You were doing it. She pulled your file just to, she
awesome.
was gonna put the fast track on it, but the lender, dinner with the lender, and the lender said, we can't close for 26. So.
No, she wanted to do it on Wednesday, and I said, look, Wednesday's church day, and Bobby's not ready by Wednesday, is what he said. I told him Thursday, so I told her, let's kick it to Thursday, and then that lets us just get to work. So, very good. All right, well, let's pray this morning. go, Lord, and seek after him. Lord, we just thank you for this day. And God, I thank you for everything that you're doing, Lord, just even in this room and in this staff, Lord, and in this church. And God, I pray that just every single one of us would be humble before you, and Lord, that we would constantly allow you to prune our hearts, Lord, so that we can walk according to what you've called us to do. And Lord, we just pray right now, God, for these requests. We pray for the car lot right now, just that they just sell a bunch of cars, that your favor would be upon them, Lord. Lord, you know that they do so much for you. And God, we just pray that you would just show favor on them, Lord, so they can continue to be a blessing. And Lord, we pray right now for Jacob, Lord, as he's in DC with this internship. God, you know that you have a plan and purpose for him. And God, we need godly people up there giving influence. Lord, I just pray that you show him favor, but also give him ability to have influence and to make connections, God, where he can shine your light up there, Lord. And our country desperately needs you. And Lord, I pray that you'd use him in whatever way possible. And we also pray for the Gordons right now, Lord, that you just give them comfort, peace, Lord. And Lord, we pray for favor with insurance. We pray for favor on cleanup, God. We pray that your hand would just be with them. And Lord, just help them through this time. Lord, let them know, Lord, that you have a plan even in the midst of the storm and the chaos. And Lord, we also pray that, Lord, that this flooding would just begin to cease, God. Lord, I pray, Lord, you just help people as they start cleaning up. God, just give them strength, Lord, during this time. And Lord, bring the right resources this way, Lord, and also show them favor with their insurance. And Lord, we just pray for me and Charity as we go to close this week, God. We know that you've guided everything. And Lord, I pray that your hand be upon it. And Lord, we love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Awesome. All right. Highs and lows from this last weekend. Anything we need to know about? Attendance was terrible.
It was awful.
That was terrible. What do you do though? You know?
There was no way.
No.
Nothing. It was
No.
all weather related.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Something we do need to be aware of. I don't know if we need to teach the people running the sound how to make it. I don't know what happened with the live yesterday, but it didn't go.
It did go. It went late. So that was
Because we forced it.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Okay.
I thought here's what I did is I scheduled it to start.
Yes.
Okay, and I think I did that
You
right.
did that right because I got the notification that it was going.
Okay, it should have went on its own.
Okay.
So what probably happened last week is that I told Jen, I said, don't touch it and see if it starts. And since she was in there, she probably saw it didn't start and probably hit start right at the beginning of service.
Okay.
And so what probably happened yesterday was I didn't realize she wasn't going to be in there. And so she was on stage. I told her.
She had related to Heidi, you push this button when service starts. Well, when you hit go live, it pulls up another window and you have to hit the direction and then select where you want it to go.
Really?
Yeah, it did because I went up there because I got a text and said, hey, we can't make it to church. Is there technical difficulties because the live's not working?
Did you come get, is that why you came that?
I came and got JoJo
I was
because
like,
I tried to fix it.
happening.
And I said, Heidi, it's not live. She goes, well,
Okay.
you just push that button. So I tried. It didn't work. I went and got JoJo because I knew he was in the kids center and he could do it in 2 seconds.
Yes.
And he told me how to do it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, but I just didn't know what happened there. But we got it going and it was up before worship was over.
Yes. Because I saw it up. I was like, must have not kicked on like it's supposed to.
I
Okay.
watched it too. What a good service. Oh my Lord, I cried.
I cried at the end.
Oh, I cried.
How many times had you shared that story, Jamie?
I don't know. I feel like
Probably just like once or so from the pulpit. Like
Yeah.
we've talked about it here, but I don't
Yeah.
know if you've shared
probably
it
once.
Yeah.
a lot from the pulpit.
Okay. Yeah, because it looked fresh to some people. I was kind of surprised. I thought it was going to be maybe even too familiar. So
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very awesome.
yeah, they and I tell you, here's a highlight.
Of the men the last
Yeah.
several services.
Yeah.
Just,
And I'll tell you a highlight of that is that Brent Smoke was we had to get gas right before we left, and Brent Smoke pulled up behind us and he was talking about it afterwards. He's like, we just need to get more involved. And so I didn't know he even served with you. So I got his number and then he had texted me later and I sent him a text message and told him, man, there's just 100 ways you can get involved, you know. And he's like, well, I do help Pastor Jamie some. So he said, we're going to try it. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it was pretty cool, you know, because I think that, you know, I mean, those are just seem like really
happening,
solid
like
people.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
With the men already,
Yeah.
you know, seeking God, and there's so much. It's just awesome to see happening. Really,
Well, and
really exciting.
to see that the men, I mean.
This is what we've been praying for.
They did not hesitate to go all
They haven't. They didn't last week either.
And you know.
They really haven't from the beginning. I haven't ever really
I
had to
kinda
push
snuck
it.
over last week. to see
Yeah.
the end of it. And then-
Yesterday, Michael asked Aubrey, it's the first time she'd heard you preach. And he said, so how'd you like our pastor? And she said, really liked him. But she said, the only thing is, I kept thinking, he's just speaking to the men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just took a couple
Us.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
To Aubrey, and I said, but you could take it for the women also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This week you tried to stress that a few times too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And there's
You
gonna
did,
be
right.
times that there's messages more geared to
Specific
specific
demographics.
Mother's
lifestyles.
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, families, singles. I mean, there will be different times, but
I'll tell you an interesting thing, not to digress, is that one time I got I would say a fairly large group of women, either through text message or in person. I said, define womanhood for me. And I couldn't get one answer. I mean, not even a start of an answer.
Just as
Not even an idea of what womanhood was. It was crazy. So it was pretty interesting.
I'm excited about that. I'm just so excited, what God's doing in the men. And Lucas and I talked last night, and I text Robert and Roxanne, and I said, listen, our God is raising up fathers out there. Our help is coming.
Yeah.
Let's meet this week. We need a plan, because when
Yeah.
all these people are coming to help us, we need to have a place
Do
to
a
put
job
them
for them.
and be ready. We've been
Yeah.
waiting for this since October. It's coming, so let's.
And he gave you
Prepare.
several shameless plugs yesterday.
Yeah. Several.
It was awesome.
Well, I
So I
think,
got with my commanders. I said, dudes, we
Yeah.
gotta be ready for this. We gotta prepare.
Yeah.
God's gonna do this.
and I think the thing of it is that probably the reality is they're not going to just show up though. I think that you're going to have to go get them. Gotta go get 'em.
Takes a while, but-
Yeah, still got to go get them. I was also, I tell you what I was really excited about is that if there was a real highlight for me yesterday was the TC boys responded to the altar call for the first time. That's been kind of my,
Oh,
that's been kind of my challenge.
they haven't in a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Have they
But
done
they feel
that? Months.
wanted by
have
you.
Well, I even like grabbed them the other day before service. Like they're kind of just my personal project. Like if I can get them to one, engage. Okay. Like my goal is to actually get them to engage. They listen, they don't talk, obviously. They're probably scared to death to talk, but like you can tell there's not a whole lot of engagement there. And my goal is to get them to engage.
Just blank face.
Yes. Engage and respond to the altar call, which I was shocked that any of them responded yesterday because they look even less engaged than in the weeks before. So
It's been a long time.
yeah.
I think you really went home to them and you said you don't have any, you're just living. You don't have any plans. You don't have any
Purpose.
ambition.
Yeah.
Don't have any direction.
Yeah.
I think that was probably what really
Because
spoke to
most
them.
of them, their goal is just to get out of here. That's
Yeah.
the only
Yeah.
thing they care
Yeah.
about.
I text Michael yesterday and I said, I don't know if you've ever read this book. I don't know if it's right here. This right here, The Traveler's Gift. This, I was like, because he put on his letter about life skills. I was like, you've got to buy this book. It's an allegory and it's just a story of this guy. It sounds stupid if I tell you what it is, but it's really good. It's about a guy who travels through time and he sits down with different people throughout history and he talks to them. And in the process, these people tell him things that he needs to know about life. It sounds really stupid, I know, but it's really, it's like if my office was burning and I can only grab 5 books, this would be one of them.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's that good. And so I give it to everybody and I went through it with leadership team and stuff, but like this book was written by a guy by the name of Andy Andrews. You should really buy it. And he was 18 and his mom and his dad both died within a year of each other. And so he went and he had no support system. So within a year, he went from, living a normal middle-class life to literally being homeless, living underneath a pier in California. And this old man walked by him one day and said, you're underneath this pier because you want to be here. That's all he said and walked off. And it made him mad. And so he said, I didn't choose for my parents to die. I didn't choose to end up homeless. I didn't choose not to have any family. But it made him mad and that stuck with him. And so he went to the library. He figured out he'd get a free library card. So it got him out indoors for a little bit. And he read 300 books in the next year, all biographies on successful people. And he noticed 7 trends of successful people. And he wrote this book out of that. And then you can't read the other book because I used so many of the stories out of it for my messages. So you hear it. But he then wrote like the backstory of all the research for this. And this is just a story. right? But then the other book was the backstory of it. It's called 7 Decisions Successful People Like. The buck stops with me. I can't pass blame. I'm where I'm at because I want to be here. You know, I got to be a person of action. You know, I got to make decisions and I got to own it. And, you know, so it's really good. You've read 7 Decisions Successful People, Andy Andrews? Yeah, you probably should have read that one first, but it was really good. So that I really digressed.
Write it down. I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, I digressed. So Teen Challenge Boys, I was pumped about that. So anything else from this weekend that we need to know about?
I think the Parents' Day Out thing was amazing.
Went really, really
Yes.
good.
I
Yes.
didn't say that.
So you want to do a VBS next year, you think, after doing that?
I do, but what I do not like about VBSs is that I don't want to just reach our church kids.
Yes.
So if I do a VBS, it's not just going to be to look cute church. I want to have an outreach with it where we, you know, head door to door. We meet families, possibly even pick up kids at the park. I don't want it to just be something for our church kids.
Yeah. It'd probably be pretty easy to do. I don't know how you would do that with kids as far as picking them up. You have to have some sort of permission letter or
Mhm.
something.
We'd have to download something and have every parent sign it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to figure that out.
You have
Only, did I say 11 or 13?
13. So you took
13, yeah. But it was a really good trial run because we've never done a VBS before, and we've never done a scheduled event with rotations. And it went really, really well.
I think Knox really likes the rotation thing.
The rotations
Gotcha,
are great. It was only 20-minute rotations.
Lucas said that's where he melted down, though, is when he had to move.
What's that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Knox, man, he said that's when he got mad or whatever, is when he had to go from
Yes.
stage to stage. Yeah.
He had to go to the music
Oh, the
from the
transition.
drone hangout time with
yeah.
Pastor Lucas.
Yeah. Not happy about
To
that.
the
used to
music.
struggle with
Yeah.
transition so bad.
So yeah, and then once I found him though, they texted me and said, we need you for Knox. So once I found him and I talked to him, he was fine.
Was it
I
like
think
that?
he just needed, I mean, he already knows me like really well,
Yeah.
and so he needed like, I think it made him feel comfortable to see me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I talked with him, but I mean, he calmed himself down. He was fine, and he got right back into it. He was a pro.
Mom, why is that door wall?
Anyway, so I don't think we raised a lot of money
Yeah.
that I was hoping for. I was hoping
Yeah.
for $300.
Yeah.
Probably was half of that.
Yeah.
But
Still learned something, though.
it was still a win because we worked
Yeah.
together as a team and did something new.
Youth involved.
Yeah, that's what I'm
love
watching
that.
them serve. They were so good.
Because you're going to need those teenagers if you do a VBS. I mean,
Yes.
because everybody's going to be
Yes.
working, you know.
Yes,
You're
and they helped me 2 years ago when I did the VBS at the park. I love that.
See, like VBSs are kind of going away, but man, it gives you an opportunity to do a lot of cool stuff. I remember those as a kid.
Those
Like,
are fun.
I do. I remember VBSs as a kid. I remember one time. Well, that was when I was a teenager. Then they put me in a wetsuit one time for Scuba Steve or something. Oh man, it was terrible.
Well, apparently my Bible story was a little too real with the theme because I had Jet crying. He thought the Tyrannosaurus was really coming to get us.
Oh wow.
Jet's a little bit.
He says, "Ah." But I mean, we had a blast.
Well, that's good. Okay, good. I like that.
Yeah.
We should definitely think about VBS next summer. That'd be fun.
Yes, it was really fun. But what I loved at the park was it was outreach, but I missed my church kids.
Yeah.
What I loved about this was I loved being with my church kids, but I missed my outreach.
I think the thing
Find a
about
way to,
I could be wrong on this, but I like things that happen at the church because it connects people to a place.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you do it at a park or something, like I get that. If the win is I hope to gather people coming to my church, then if you do it somewhere away from your church, it's really hard to get people to know where you're even from. You know.
Did you advertise it anywhere other than here and Facebook?
No.
Okay,
So you throw up a
if you
sign.
throw up a sign outside, if you like go door to door, hand out cards, whatever,
Yeah.
that will help. Because parents
Parents
are
are
looking for
looking-
somewhere to get rid of their kids.
Exactly.
Like I was more than excited to drop my boys
Yeah.
off on Saturday.
And probably free, you know, if you're doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder, even $15 a kid, did that turn people off, you think?
I think it made the price looking back may have been too high.
This was a fundraiser.
Maybe,
though.
but-
Our church
Yeah.
people knew this
Yeah.
fundraiser.
It was a
Yeah.
fundraiser,
And what we're
but
doing it for.
outreach is
Yeah.
so free, and if you advertise right, I think you could do it really well here at the church. And
Oh,
you wanna
yeah.
highlight your kids center because
We have the space.
you have, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And people walk in and see that and
Yeah.
they're like, oh.
And if you have parent service last night or something,
Yeah.
if you could get them to show up, that'd be cool too. So
Well, I'm glad we did it on the smaller level first.
Yes.
So now we know what to tweak, what to do, what we're good at, how to change it up.
Yeah.
And so all of us are on board for doing a 3-day.
I was about
Yes.
to say that too. You don't have to do a whole week either, even if you just
3
couple
days.
2 or 3 days. One time in our church in South Carolina, man, they went all out. The one I remember the most was when they turned the entire kids wing into a submarine. They literally took, I don't know how much money, I know how much time it took because my dad was in on building this stuff. I mean,
That's
it was like
awesome.
2 weeks to turn it was ridiculous. Probably it was over the top. So they built a whole ark one time with moving waves. Like, They took, so basically they took, in every hallway, they laid PVC across the ground and they took the like 1-inch PVC and they bent it over the top and then they lined it with black plastic and put portholes. So like you're walking down a submarine in every hallway. And it was a gymnasium. It was a gymnasium and then all the classrooms on one side. So you think of 2 stories, the length of a gymnasium down both hallways. And so they'd take and put fish tanks on the other side of some of the portholes that they could. So when you looked out, you saw fish. And I mean, as a kid, I thought this was the coolest thing ever. You know what I mean? But Lord knows how much money and time it took for them to do it. And it wasn't like a huge church either. I mean,
Wow.
they probably ran 200-300 on Sunday morning.
Not too cost effective.
Probably it was cool. So and then the
Stuck
one,
with you.
I remember they built an ark one time, like a
Oh,
legit
I
ark,
would really
like.
like that.
And so one of the guys, my best friend at the time, he was 2 days older than me, and his dad was an engineer. So his dad figured out a way to rig up an oscillating fan to, like the blue insulated foam board. And so they cut it out, look like waves. And so when that oscillating fan went like this, it was on like a spring over here. So the waves were constantly going back and forth from each other.
Yes.
It looked like it was in the water, and they
Yes.
had like waterfalls on the side. It was ridiculous how much effort they put into this. But the Noah's Ark thing would be really easy to pull off if you went something like that, because you could build an ark. You just got to get a bunch of, junk wood, so, and then you just start, shooting that stuff up.
We
So-
did the fall festival once. We did the black tunnels.
Mm.
Ooh.
Brent used to put on pretty elaborate stuff, but he raised his own money.
Yeah, he can do what he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be fun to do, though. I mean, that could be cool.
I'm wanting to put that on the calendar, and I'm probably going to order. All of this we just wrote it and made it up.
Yeah.
But we'll probably buy a kit with a theme, with the craft, with the music, with everything.
Yeah, there's so much that goes
Probably
into
the
it.
easier way to go and cheaper.
Yes.
in the long
Especially if
run.
you're gonna do a multi-day thing and you
Yeah.
wanna keep it together.
Yeah.
If you did 3 days, Monday through Wednesday, and then had a big parent thing on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah. And if you got your youth involved, right, you just get everybody in on it. You know what I mean? And you just make it one big service. And, then if you wanted to, you could make that in the sanctuary, because then that gives you another, massive room to
Yeah.
do stuff. So we can figure all that out later, but yeah, just whatever. So,
I was super intimidated by VBS when I became a children's pastor because I'd never done one before.
mhm.
I never went to VBS as a kid. But now that we did this trial run and it went well, I'm super confident about putting one on.
Yeah.
They are confident
Yeah.
about it too.
Yeah.
So
And it's
it
one of
was
those,
a win.
it's also one of those things that like it might even be more important for your team to have something like to be excited about in the dead of summer. It's hard to find things to get excited about in the dead of summer because everybody's on vacation and
Yes.
but if you had that, that's low hanging fruit,
You don't have to do all day. You could even do like 8 to 9.
8 to
or
12. A
something.
lot of people
Yeah.
do. Yeah, that's what First
Just
Baptist did
more
this year.
than-
8 to
Yeah.
It's new. Yeah. Very good. Okay. This weekend, one thing I'm still worried about is like visitors and people who are not here finding a real way to track that and keep up with it. You know what I mean? So I don't think there was probably any visitors this
We
week.
had one.
We did. We're Ruth.
Ruth.
Yes. I will call her. I don't know if we'll see her. It sounds like she legitimately goes to church.
She goes to church.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's it
Oh.
called?
She couldn't
Okay.
get to grow.
Yeah,
Right.
Ah,
But she filled out a card for me anyways.
The only thing that I would like to say is, you need to say in the announcements that they need to fill out the card,
Okay,
but then they need to put it in the offering
okay,
instead of putting it back at the back of the seat.
okay,
Because I just got one yesterday. It was
Right.
From 2 weeks ago.
okay.
Oh,
I
really?
still
You
feel like
put it
they're
back
gonna
in the
forget by the
That's not
time
good.
offering time comes.
And I checked, I missed that seat. I checked them all Friday.
I still think we need to
Think
post
that-
somebody at the front with a sign that's.
Or-
Once we do once we have a place for them to go, that will be easier to track that. But the issue is sometimes, because meet and greets at the very beginning, if I say it, then you've got a lot of people that visitors are nervous about coming in, so they come in after that.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I can also say it in like my message or whatever, but I think the
What
thing
if
to
you
do
said
is,
right before the offering. Like,
Yeah.
I know you guys
Just
rotate
say
that,
whoever
but-
does the offering could say,
Cause then they have
Put
the
your-
time to
you
fill
know,
out the
put your-
card.
I would-
card.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
I would prefer, I agree with what you're saying. We definitely don't want them leaving in the seat, but I would say have them take it to, we need the designated spot and then try to get, and I know that's going to be, a challenge to get people to actually do that,
Okay,
but
and we're in Delaware County, so is that gonna happen really?
I don't know.
I mean,
Especially once
Well-
we get our gifts, like take it to the table and we have a gift for you. Once we get those boxes made, that
Yes.
can be the spot where they go.
And
Then we can get it at offering too.
Sunday, the foyer was not impressive at all. It was,
Yes, this Sunday,
yeah.
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
I
And
noticed
so-
that too. We need to do something.
Yes. I mean, I don't particularly like to come into a church where it's so gaudy that you can't even see the people for the stuff.
Yeah.
It's like really busy classrooms, kids.
That
can't
was,
get
I mean, it just looked, it didn't look good at all.
Well, this is probably the first time in a month that there wasn't something extra up though. Yeah, there's something that wasn't extra. So we need to get the boxes done. We gotta get that stuff done. Right now, she's just trying to get, like the one guy was supposed to send her the quote back. She called him Friday finally. And he
He was like,
forgot.
oh yeah, it's in my hand right now. I'm gonna email you. That
Yeah,
one
like-
other guy,
Oh,
My
who were you
son's-
talking to?
Kelly. something.
Oh,
Kelly at
Whitney.
Allen Science Studio?
Yeah,
That's who I work with. He prints all my,
super,
Kids and
super
stuff.
nice guy. Him and my dad
yes.
were friends growing up.
So
But yeah, he's little.
yeah, so trying to get some of that stuff. And then if we set that up nice, that will help not be completely bare in there. The other thing too is like, once we get like all of our values loaned out and getting some like legitimate pictures hanging up in the foyer, that will help with that too. So I got a guy coming. I got a kid coming. He's just got to get back from Africa. So I talked about that last week and I
Did
don't think you were
we
here.
talk to the youth about taking pictures?
Yes. She said she's struggling to think about kids who would be reliable and
Last night when we practiced.
Yeah.
For Sunday
yeah.
music, this Sunday, Jen was talking to Brooklyn and she was talking to some of the youth girls.
Yeah. It does. I think, and she was telling me this right before I was trying to get the live thing going. So that might've been, well, I forgot that maybe I set it up wrong, but, so I didn't catch a lot of that. So I think that's what they're struggling is, but at this point, I don't care who it is. I mean, it
Right,
doesn't
why
have to
don't
be.
they just ask several people?
Yeah.
And then
I
we'll
think
use
she
whoever
has.
they get.
Yeah. I don't think I explained that clearly is what I'm saying. Like
Oh,
it could literally be anybody that,
This Sunday, just some action shots. People, foyer, worship, altar, pastor preaching.
And I
Go
can
ahead
send
and
you
put-
some of mine
put
too.
the
that you
Yes.
like.
big
I like that.
in the foyer to
Black and
decorate.
white or whatever.
For Facebook.
Well, even-
also.
even for like Facebook, just to throw it up like on Monday, like, hey, it was a great weekend. Like a picture of like all those guys praying at the altar would be a really cool for like
Didn't you and
today.
I take some yesterday?
I got some pictures.
Yeah.
I got
So
some.
when are you going to put those up? I mean, you don't have to put
That's
all
what
of
I
them
was
up.
going to ask.
Yeah.
How you want that to look?
I think that we want to do that on Monday.
Okay.
Don't you think?
I mean-
Because it's the day after.
Yeah.
Everybody's pumped.
Yeah.
Say something about spending awesome 2 weeks.
Perception is always reality. So it doesn't matter that there was 115 here. We show a picture of the altar call.
Yeah.
I
Be like,
feel
it's
like
cool.
mine did not come out good. I'm looking.
Well, I love this picture.
Oh,
Like this
yes, 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 yes. That's good.
Whatever you like.
You got some good ones. I was just in the back, so mine are.
Yeah, you can't take pictures from the back.
How do you really feel about that?
Hateful, sorry.
Yeah, it was. I was like,
No,
I feel like
you
now you gotta give 3 compliments.
Sorry about that.
I wasn't gonna sneak up to the front and have all the parents be like, why isn't she with our kids?
Well, I just did it. People were looking at me like I was crazy.
Why is
And I
that
went
you?
to
And
that
I was
side
like,
first. I'm like, people are gonna think I'm up here trying to take a picture of my husband praying. This is awkward.
I'm
So I went to the
proud of
other
you,
side
Jay.
too.
I was like, oh, she's so cute. And I was like, oh, we're supposed to be doing that. So I whipped my phone out.
So,
Those are really good, Jay.
Okay.
So like, what kind of thing do I say when I post it?
I mean, I think, just whatever goes with the theme of it. So, like, if it was me and you have, assuming that's a picture of all the guys at the altar.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can take a picture of the altar and say, can you find yourself?
Can you find your husband?
If you can't get into,
into the altar.
yeah. So, I mean, I would just say something of like,
Instead
These are
of
the lead-
posting the
this is a leader.
graphic,
Yeah.
I could post like a quote from your servant.
Yeah. Which I'm not quotable. That's the problem. We already
You're
talked
gonna
about
have to work on
that.
that.
I know.
I posted anyways.
I'm not
He's
very-
not quotable or
I'm not-
tweetable. He needs more creative
I'm terrible at that stuff.
things.
But no, I'd put something. I don't even know if you have to do that. Like,
Okay.
you could put this is what godly male leadership looks like.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or these are the leaders of our church. I don't know, something like that.
Okay. On Mondays.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Or how
Yes.
I mean, it could just. I mean, I don't even know if it always has to tie necessarily to what we talked about. Even
Okay.
great weekend at JFA,
Yeah.
and if you posted a few pictures, I mean, I don't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it always has to be. I think not getting stuck in a routine of the type of content we put out is
Okay.
important. Keep it thinking. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I do think the routine of like, hey, we're going to honor volunteers on this, that. I think that routine is good, but
You just don't want it mundane all the time.
yeah, we're
Right.
saying the same thing over and over again, especially
Okay.
because it's going to be hard to force certain things to come out. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're not, yeah, I don't think if you're not tweetable, like I'm not, trying to
Right.
force it to be isn't
Okay.
terrible. As far as the visitor box, tell them what you have in the box and tell me if you guys think this is good or dumb.
All right, so pull everything up.
Okay.
These are the boxes. Ooh, I don't know if I got this upside down. Ooh. Love the boxes. And then the black sticker will go on top of the box. And then we're working on, you can't see them, but the white ones for car decals. These are expensive. If we don't do car decals, the boxes are only like $365 total.
Yeah.
If we do the car decals, it's over $600.
How many decals?
I have a thought. I really like the car decals, but our visitor's gonna throw it on their car.
I don't know, but I want to give them the opportunity if they want one.
Okay.
I mean, at $1, because here's what I'm
They're only
thinking.
$1.68 a piece.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here's what I'm
But
thinking.
if we're buying 200 of them.
What a lot of places do and what we did was cups. And regardless,
Yeah, I don't think we should do
they
that.
basically come out to $5 a piece. Okay,
Yeah.
time you ship them, and because it's expensive because they're heavy, and then you got to fill them with candy or something. So you're probably really talking $6-7 a piece.
Right.
So having a box that's different and unique, and I think if we make it funny, is kind of a cool idea.
I love the box.
And it's
Okay,
still only
so-
$5 or $6 a piece,
We're-
even if we do the car
We're
decal.
yeah,
Okay.
we're probably still cheaper than a cup, and it's
Okay.
unique. So
Okay.
that's why I say put a
And the
card
car
decal.
decals, we'll throw them in for the visitors, but we're gonna try to sell them to members $3 a piece or 2 for $5. Just to
Oh.
kind of offset the, so
Perfect.
they'll be
balance.
available to church members and people, not necessarily members of people that go here.
Yeah.
We'll try to sell them to kind of offset the cost.
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
Like it.
Okay.
I mean, surely we can sell 2 of them for $5. People surely like
Oh, yeah.
Neely and Misty would buy them.
So are you gonna offer them kind of to purchase in that same welcome area where the boxes are?
Yeah, we haven't
Or
really
you're gonna
talked
have
about it that
posted there?
far, but
Great.
we haven't really talked.
Cafe or something, you know.
It'd be nice to have like T-shirts and just like a.
Well, were those
Okay.
pins?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that. Yes, there's a pen. Do we have pens? We were supposed to ask you. They looked purple. The ones we found.
We don't have any more in, do we?
We don't have any more.
We're out.
They're
Okay.
purple.
That-
We need
Yeah,
new ones.
yeah, we're not. Yeah,
Merch area looks-
purple
So we're
is
doing
no
basic.
more. Is that one right there?
No more purple for pastor.
You know what's weird about that? Okay, pause for a second. We watched his video. Okay, I watched a video and I asked him his least favorite color, and he said purple. I was like,
He watched the Facebook, our
Yeah.
Facebook videos of Jay versus
Oh,
Bailey.
We
Yeah.
asked him, like,
And Larry
70
asked
questions.
him, what's your favorite?
I was cracking up with that video, but
So we're just gonna do white with black and the black logo and name.
I like it.
Make it
Perfect.
real simple.
I like it.
And we're
It'd
gonna put gum, and we're gonna put hand sanitizer, and we're gonna put earplugs, and we're gonna put Kleenex.
Perfect.
and we're gonna make something funny to go along with each of them.
I love
Maybe we should put like a little candy bar or something there too, or some mints or something. I don't know, something to chew on.
Not meant if you have
We're
candy.
doing
I mean, not if you have gum.
That's true.
So,
But that won't cost any money though.
yeah, I can put some
All
chocolate.
women love chocolate.
So do you guys think that's a good idea, bad idea?
I love it.
I
I
love it.
think you design a super neat card that explains it all.
We do need that.
And so,
Yes.
It's funny.
We need
Yes.
what we
Want
would
a picture in it?
what we would need additionally to
We
that.
also want, like information about the church,
yes.
Yes.
like especially how to get involved in connect groups or stuff like that. So that will need to be designed to put in there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And hopefully we can get this done in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I like it.
If you want to talk to me about, not now, but later, about what each of these are, we can work on it.
Phrases.
Yes, we can work on that. I'll
Okay.
design something.
The what do you think? Do you like it? Dislike it?
I do.
Okay. What do you think? Like it? Dislike it?
Excuse me, I'm not very creative, so,
Me neither.
uh,
All right, we don't.
whatever y'all think will work, is just fine.
I'm with him. So whatever you guys like.
You
Okay.
know, we've tried all kinds of different stuff over the years. I can't think of anything that was out, way outstanding, so
Yeah,
this is a.
it's different.
Good idea, it's different.
Yeah, it's different, and it's one of those things that like we can
Well,
tweak it as we
The
go.
thing about being a visitor, though, is a lot of people don't like to be pointed out,
Yes,
you know?
I agree.
For years, we had them stand up. If you're a visitor, stand up.
Oh, that's
If you're not a
terrible.
visitor, stay seated.
Yeah.
Everybody
Did
else.
that for a while.
You know, I mean,
I've been there before where they did that to me.
go ask somebody for a dance. I
Just
mean,
makes
you
you
know, just.
green.
Go ask somebody for a dance.
If they're a visitor, go see if they want to dance with you.
Hey, give this visitor a snake. We handle snakes around here. Yeah.
Oh,
But, some people like, my friend Joyce Williams has a wall-line fit if she thinks her picture is gonna be on Facebook.
Hmm.
She does not like for Mary Martin to be carrying around her phone because she knows good and well that she's gonna put
Because
everything
Mary
she
takes
has
the most
on.
unflattering pictures. She doesn't tell you to post. She just gets you shoving that brownie in your mouth or something every time. So now I'm like,
Or the back
hold
of
on,
your
Mary, I'm gonna
butt
need you to
standing
retake
there.
that. And then I do some stupid pose. And she puts both me shoving the brownie in my face and my stupid pose on
We didn't
Facebook.
have, we didn't flack, we didn't, this is time dated, but we used to video
Mhm.
the services. And we had some people who didn't like that, especially at altar call time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well, I'm telling you,
Like
all
that.
the service is very,
we had
very
to-
personal.
We had to kind of cut it off, that's all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
it does make sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, is what's gonna happen at the
Yeah.
altar, and if somebody doesn't want their picture taken or something, when they're seriously doing something, just them and God,
Hmm.
I mean, we have to consider
Yeah.
that.
That is a good point. We'll need to be careful about that with Facebook. That's a good point.
So
Also,
maybe before you do, you can.
we're talking about that, but before I forget, Jamie, we have got to put a sign back there at the PA system or something. Turn Patty down, turn her down, turn her almost off, so that we can hear what she's saying.
I think it's been
Was it
better the
better
last.
this week?
I thought it was better the last 2 weeks. Last week you weren't here. We
fixed
we
things.
practiced that, and I think it went better. I could hear her this week too. So where I was standing, I could. So the
And I
last
could
2
hear
weeks
her
was the
before
first
you,
2
too.
times. But what I think really helped is he knows what microphone you have.
Yeah,
So
I have
he's
a
not
new
playing
microphone, And I don't go up there until Patty quits singing.
Yeah,
That's a new thing.
yeah,
And she knows she's gotta quit singing
yeah.
or I'm not coming up.
I mean, it's not Patty's problem. It's
Right.
back there in the back.
Right,
We
Yeah.
so
control
that,
her.
we've got that
But
figured
she
out.
can't hear how loud she is.
Right.
When
This-
you have
She
those
really
earbuds
can't right
in,
now, because she's got
the different world.
pus coming out her ears, guys.
You got pus coming out of your ears, Patty?
She's really.
Oh, so don't use Patty's
That's
earbuds.
Yeah. Get on to Mimi.
I'm so sorry. Oh, God.
Yeah.
But I think it's been better. Did I do better
Yeah,
this week?
last couple weeks.
Yes. You have done better the last couple weeks, but you didn't give any announcements this week, did you?
Yes, I did. Last week I didn't do an announcement. I told about family service.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
this
you?
week she did.
It was
Yeah.
fast then, because I didn't catch it.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, she heard from the foyer.
Did you?
Really? Okay.
Did you ask her about putting that on Facebook?
Yes,
Yes,
I've got it.
before-
I'm doing
yes.
that today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's gonna put what we still need for food for
Okay.
Sunday on Facebook, see if we can get
And
more.
Which is just about
the
everything.
ones doing the Friday thing, like the board games and stuff. I love.
We didn't get to do a board game because we were packing.
Sure.
I think there's just one left.
Okay. Well, we have digressed a long time. Is there anything else?
I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
Well, we need to talk about the boxes. You're doing good.
Huh?
We needed to talk about the
Yeah.
boxes.
I wanted to do a quick devotion. This one's not as long as what I have done in the past. It's not really a devotion, more of a leadership. This is my last week on culture and just some thoughts on culture, really. So definitely over the last several weeks, we've been talking about it. The first week, we defined what culture is, right? And we showed how it's a biblical model of church growth in the early church. And then last week, you guys missed this, but we talked about why it's important to have a proper culture, because a tractional church does not exist, right? It's not a biblical model. The Bible says that there's no one who seeks after God. And so if you're trying to attract people to church, you're probably doing it the wrong way. The biblical model is declaration and invitation. So Andrew went to Peter and said, hey, I think we found the Messiah. He declared what he saw. And he says, hey, come and see him yourself. You got to come see him. So hopefully we start to have a biblical idea of what culture is. And here's the thing that I want us to talk about today is that leadership determines culture always. So leadership always determines culture. When I first spoke to the board and staff, I used this analogy of the family, and I've used it over and over again because it's just really simple, right? The child's playing sport, wants to quit, child comes to the parent, and the parent says, you are not going to quit in our house because in our house we finish. And then what happens? The child has to go on. So what you just saw is that the leader, in this case the parent, dictated to the child what the culture was going to be because the parent was a leader. And you see this idea, you always can see who the leaders are in any group, and you always see that those leaders influence the culture. If you go to a high school sporting team, let's say you go to the J football team and you watch them practice, it won't take you very long to figure out who the real leaders are on the field. They may have the C on their jersey, they may not. It doesn't matter. You'll be able to see who the leaders are, and you will see that everybody is acting the way they do. So if the real leaders on the team are working hard, everybody else is going to be working hard. If the real leaders on that team are cussing a lot, everyone else is going to be cussing a lot. You can tell who the leaders are pretty quickly, and then everybody is going to be following their influence. And so every organization, every church, every business, every team, there's always leaders, and everybody's going to act just the way they act, right? So if you get to a church and the leadership is highly insecure and they're constantly backbiting each other and they're constantly gossiping and complaining, what's going to happen? Everybody in that church is going to act just like those leaders, right? If those leaders are hardworking, forward-thinking, driving ahead, everybody in that church is going to act just like them. Why is that? Because culture always follows leadership, right? This really hit me several years ago with my leadership team at Vertigris. My main leadership team was my family group leaders. They were basically my small group leaders. And I realized when I was looking at them that they basically acted like I did, which was probably scary, right? I consider myself a very confident person. Literally everybody in that room, there's probably 15 of us in that room, everyone except for one person was incredibly confident. I like to do things with excellence, and they really did care about doing things the right way. I'm sarcastic, even though I'm really trying. At one time, it was so bad, I actually had a sarcasm jar, kind of like a cuss jar. So every time I was sarcastic, I had to throw $1 in there. because it had gotten really bad. So I've gotten better. I'm pretty blunt and transparent, and my team was really blunt and transparent with me. If I had an idea that they didn't like, they would tell me. It wasn't ever disrespectful or mean, but they say, no, that's a terrible idea, and we would fix it, right? I told them that I wanted them leading the kids, and they really did embrace that. They were the true leaders of our ministry. So for better or worse, I set the culture of that because I was the leader, and then our leaders were, and you can see that a lot of the kids, it was weird how that happens. And, you know, one of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans. And in Remember the Titans, right, the two guys are arguing, and he's like, you're not working hard, you're not doing anything. And all I said to him is, attitude reflects leadership. You're the captain. And that's all it took, right? And that is true. Attitude really does reflect leadership because leadership sets the culture. So here's the reality. Both your good qualities and your bad qualities are going to come out in the teams that you lead because you are setting that culture. So why is this the case? Why do leaders dictate the culture? Well, there's really two big reasons. First, people tend to be drawn towards people they like. Okay? So you tend to follow people you like. You're probably not going to follow someone you don't like. And if you do, you probably have an alternative motive for why you're following them, right? And it's probably self, what's the word I'm looking for? Beneficial. Yes. I'm benefiting myself because I'm going to follow this guy, even though I think he's worthless and I don't like him, because I'm going to lead a coup and I'm going to take his chair, stuff like that. I mean, that really does happen. It really goes back to the 5 levels of leadership. I was talking to Pastor Jamie about this a while back, and we'll deep dive into this later on, but there's really 5 levels of leadership. The first one is my title, right? If you go to McDonald's, this is a reverse pyramid. If you go to McDonald's, right, the manager at McDonald's, everybody there's following him because he has a title manager. They don't like him or have to like him or whatever. But the second level is really a relationship, right? People are following you. So at level 1, people follow you because they have to, because you write their check. Level 2, people are following you because they like you. So the basic fundamental of leadership, starting, at the very bottom, is people are following you because you like you. So that's why your people tend to act like you, because they like you. So you have influence with them. But the second thing is the reason why people tend to act like you as a leader, first, because they like you. Second is because your natural influence is going to be shown towards things that you deem as important. So if I think that excellence is important, I'm going to always be celebrating excellence and we're talking about it and we'll be modeling it. So it's just naturally coming out of me because of who I am. And so that gets reproduced inside of my ministry. Now, you will place natural influence on what you deem as important. Meaning, you're going to talk about things that you think are important. You're going to highlight things that you think are important. Things that are important to you are naturally going to come out of your life, and you're going to put stuff towards it. So why does this matter to you and to me? Because we all need to know a certain reality of ministry, and that is that this church is going to look like the people in this room and on staff. I mean, it's going to look like your leaders. I mean, that's ultimately what this church is going to look like. So our job is to define that culture, what our values are, what we're going to do about it, and that becomes who we are. And then ultimately, as we keep using the same terminology, they're going to start looking like us, better or worse. Our strengths are going to come through in the people that we lead, along with our weaknesses. So you better know what your weaknesses are. And if you don't know what they are, just watch your team, and sooner or later you'll see what your weaknesses are, because they're going to be acting just like you. All right. So let me show you some observations about this thought. First, we know it to be true. Right? Leaders dictate culture. We know this to be true. You can look at any organization and see that it resembles its leadership, right? You can be, if your leadership is solid, your church is going to be solid, and they're going to follow suit. If the leadership is wonky and falling apart, then our church is going to be falling apart. The second observation is that, listen carefully, the leader sets the culture, all right? The leader in your ministry isn't always necessarily you, just because you have a title. Right? So the real leader of your ministry is always going to set the culture of your ministry. So if you want to be the culture setter in your ministry, then you better make sure that you're actually the leader. And that's a real problem. That's a real problem. Let's just bring it close to home. Right? I've been here 5 weeks. I'm not the leader of this church. Man, that's just the reality of it. You know what I mean? And so I got the title, but I'm down here right now. You know, I haven't had time to start working up the ladder. And so you better be self-aware when you step into a room who the real leader is. You know, and if it's not you, then you better figure out how to make it you. And that's just a little inside information to be thinking about. Culture is extremely hard to establish. That's the third observation I want you to see. What we're talking about over the last several weeks of establishing culture is not something that happens overnight, right?
It takes 2 years.
Oh, it takes a long time to establish it in the room. On the other hand, once you get a culture established, it's incredibly hard to change. So this works both ways. When you're stepping into a new environment or you're trying to launch something new, it's very difficult to get that ship to turn. It's like turning the Titanic. It takes a while to get it to turn. The good news is,
done it this way.
Yes.
What's happening?
the good news is once it's already going in that direction, it's really hard to get it off course because, again, culture is hard to change. And so, we saw this in our youth ministry, and I might have mentioned this the other day, but every time sixth graders were coming into our youth, we let them come in at seventh grade, so a year later than we do here. But every time the teachers and the Impact Girls and the Road Rangers would say, this is the worst group of sixth graders we have ever had. Every year.
Right? Yes.
It was always the worst, okay? They're the worst. They don't listen. They don't talk, or they talk all the time. They don't know anything about Jesus, just every time. They're the worst, okay?
You go, good luck.
Yes, every time. They're the worst. And I was always like, I'm not worried about it. Why? Because there was a culture already established in our youth ministry that we were serious during service. And so I knew that these little seventh graders stepping in were going to be scared to death to be the stupid ones. So they sat there and they just sat there really quiet because everybody else was acting with respect and everybody else was getting into the service. Therefore, they were going to do what the leader, because they definitely weren't the leaders of that room. They were going to do like everybody else. And so they followed suit. So this idea that culture is extremely hard to change is really difficult on the front end, but you can really leverage it on the back end. So new people that come to our church, as we establish this, they'll jump in quickly because they see everybody else doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You with me on that? And I'll tell you, someplace where I'm hoping to really see that happen is with like the TC boys, right? Like I texted Michael last night. I said, how do they leave in groups, or is it constantly somebody's coming, constantly somebody's going? And it's constantly someone. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to see if I can't get a culture where they pay attention and they respond to the altar call. Because if I can ever establish that in, the ones that are there, even as they get new kids coming in, they'll follow in suit. So we'll see. That'll be our little experiment in this room and see what happens. Okay. So the question then becomes, how do you set the culture? How do you set the culture? Okay. This is a whole nother list of numbers. And I threw Jamie Hudspeth off when I started doing 1, 2, 3, and then I started over again. This is a whole nother set of 1, 2, 3s. Okay.
How do you set the culture?
How do you set the culture? I hate multiple lists of numbers and messages. That is my pet peeve. Unfortunately, today it has to happen. So
Okay.
I saw it in your eyes because you flip back, you're like, this is not number one. And this makes me mad. Okay. New list of numbers.
Okay.
Number one, how do I set the culture? First, you got to become a leader, right? You have to be building influence. You have to be the thermostat in the room and not the thermometer, meaning you have to be the one setting the pace. And a lot of the way that you really become the leader is think about what I just told you a minute ago. Why does leadership dictate culture? Because I tend to draw people that are like me, and I tend to naturally exude and deem certain things important. Okay. So what you do is, if you want to become a leader and you feel like you're not, is look for the ones that like you and look for the ones that think like you. Right. And they will sooner or later, that's who you're going to ultimately have following you anyway. So you might as well just go to them from the beginning. All right. Just kind of save some time, become the leader of the room. Second thing that you need to do if you want to set your culture is you need to define what you want the culture to be. You cannot create something without knowing what you're trying to build. If I want to build a house, I can't just start nailing 2x4s together. I have to have a plan, and I have to have a blueprint of what I want to try to build. And this is why spending so much time with the staff, this is week number 3, on talking about what our culture is going to be. This is why I'm trying to get the lingo right, because there's 100 things that we can do, but this is ultimately what we're talking about, building our philosophy around. So we have got to get this right. This is more important than what goes in the box. This is ultimately more important than doing a VBS. This is more important than what I'm going to preach Sunday. It really is, because if we're talking about this is going to be our model for years to come, then we better make it right. And so that's why I'm spending so much time on this. And then we have to live out this culture in every department. It has to be lived out on worship. It has to be lived out in teenagers. It has to be lived out in youth and in kids and a sisterhood. Like we have to embrace this stuff to some degree. Now there's going to be a different flair for every single ministry, depending on your needs. For example, in the kids, we talked about our spiritual values and we broke it up into leadership values. Maybe during the leadership time, all your people are doing things haphazardly, and you need to go in there and say, look, we are going to be we're going to do ministry with excellence. And so I need you, and you have to focus on different things at different times, depending on what season you're in. It might be with the sisterhood. You're like, man, all the women are showing up for a women's event and they're not talking to new people. So you got to talk to them. Hey, we are a family and you need to make sure new people are coming into the family. You have to focus on different aspects of the values at different times. But if we're all sitting at the same lingo at different times, it's going to work out really well. The third thing, and this is really important if you want to set the culture, is you have to model out the.
That was 2B. Live out the culture was 2B,
No.
right?
No, sir.
So are we on 4 now?
No, sir. Sorry.
We're on 3 or 4.
We're on number 3. 1, become the leader. 2, define what you want the culture to be.
When he said live out the culture,
I'm good at it.
That's part of number 2.
that was a sub.
Yeah,
we
that
were
was a
still on
sub.
number
I
2.
never said number 2. B. I never said number 3.
I know, but I
You
listed
jumped
it
ahead.
3,
You
so I changed
jumped
it because I had it as
ahead.
3 and I was going 4. So did she.
That's
number 3.
no, because number 3. The number. I'm sorry. Okay,
This 3A.
this is 3. I don't have 3 A's and 3 B's. This is 3.
Making.
She's
Okay.
our type A.
Good night.
I'm
Okay.
not type A except when it comes to my note taking.
How to set the
Okay.
culture. Number 3 is you have to model that culture in your life. This is kind of live it out. So you were close. But I like the word model better. Once you define what the culture is, then you have to model it for everybody else. And modeling, this is where it touches people's life. Okay. This is where everything we're talking about to this point is kind of theoretical. Modeling is where the rubber really meets the road. I sat through a psychology class. It was super interesting. And they talked about how you can almost learn to do anything by watching other people do it. And like, this is the power of YouTube. Like you can literally do almost anything now because it's on YouTube on how to do it. But this is before YouTube. So he brought the guy up to the front. He said, can anybody in here actually juggle? And one guy could juggle really well. And so they brought him to the front and he started juggling these balls. And he said, okay, I want you just to do this for like 5 minutes. And everybody just sit here and stare at him, watch him juggle, watch what he's doing with his hands and manipulate it. Because he was really the only one that could. All right. And so he juggled for like 5 minutes. We just watched. And I couldn't juggle at all. And after watching for 5 minutes, I could do something that resembled juggling. Okay. Not real well. I wasn't good at it. Definitely wasn't like this other guy. But the point is, I watched him for 5 minutes. And just by watching him do the same thing over and over and over again, I was learning how to do it, even though I had never tried it myself. And that's really, really important when it comes to establishing culture, because if you want to have a certain culture in your ministry and in your church, then you better be modeling it so that other people are watching how to live this out. Because we say, you know what, we value the word of God here. Well, most people don't know how to read their Bible. Hey, we value family. What does that really mean? A lot of people don't come from a good family. What does that mean? And this is how Jesus led, Jesus led his disciples, right? He modeled ministry for them, right? He goes to Matthew, who's a tax collector. He says, follow me. And then the very next verse, he's putting him to work doing something. Right? He's modeling for him. He sends out the 72. He sends out the 12. He's constantly modeling how to do ministry and then letting them practice it, right? And so we as leaders have to be setting and modeling our culture if they're going to get on board. And this is one of the reasons why I've dedicated in my heart to try to get outside the church and do a simple routine outside the church. And right now, since we're not living here, it's getting coffee at Casey's. Simple thing, going to Casey's every Thursday, getting a cup of coffee, even though we don't need it because we have it here at the church. And I'm inviting the poor lady at the counter, because it's the same one every week, to church. And now she knows who I am. I don't know if we're on speaking terms yet for name basis, but she recognized me. She's like, crap, this is that guy's going to invite me to church, right? It's starting to work. You know what I mean? Why? And so if I tell people I want them to be spirit-led to be a witness, it's really hard to be a witness sometimes when you're working at church, because you sit in this office and unless I'm trying to win Mimi to Jesus, everybody is already saved, right?
I'm not just saved.
Everybody's saved. So
It's the same thing. I have a relationship with the lady over at Dollar General.
Yeah.
Because I go to Dollar General about once a day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so I finally, her name's Christy now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've
be
done
on first name basis.
times, and she says, "What are you cooking today?"
Yeah.
I mean, she's she's
Yeah.
on that. And so.
I know us.
and what I'm doing is just building a relationship with her over the year that I've been working on this, and she's responding.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
she's responding positively.
Absolutely.
Without the modeling, the rest of it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They absolutely will not pay any attention if you're not doing it.
Absolutely. And this is the most important thing. Like we don't have to necessarily have the terms on the wall to have a good culture. It just helps make it easier.
Yeah.
You know, it just helps make it, if you're not living it. I can't stand that pulpit, have people stand for the reading of the word of God and say, I value that if I'm not reading it at home. And that's borderline hypocritical, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to be modeling it. And that really ties into point number 4. Okay. No, this is 4. You got to celebrate the culture and the life of others. So when we model it, that's one thing. But when I go to someone who's living it out and I celebrate it in their life, that's a whole other thing, because what gets celebrated gets reproduced.
Yes.
Right? This right here is because people love to hear praise. They really do. In fact, the Bible says that you're judged or you're tested by the praise that you receive, right? It's not our criticisms that are going to be our test. It's the praise that we get, because people love getting praised.
You know,
And-
Pastor, I do not have to have compliments to make me work.
Mhm.
I don't go on that,
You don't?
you know, but
Some
I
people
mean,
do.
if you ever pat me on the back, I'll kill myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
It makes me go higher in what I'm doing.
Yep.
Yeah, it does.
It does help. So we have to get really good at seeing people who are living out the culture and then celebrating that.
Yes.
Either right there in person, celebrating it on Facebook, celebrating it
Yes.
from the
Send them
platform.
a card. Thank you for serving. You're
Yeah.
doing awesome.
Even the thing about
Yes.
like Newly yesterday, we're
That was
talking about
celebrating
that was
him.
celebrating him.
Yes.
And the powerful thing about that, because where we get bad at church sometimes is beating people up for not doing things.
Right?
So like we could sit up there and we could say,
Why aren't you serving on
yeah,
Wednesdays?
we have 1 or 2 guys
Look,
out there.
Robert Dying out
They're the
there.
only ones.
Hello.
You sorry dogs, you're not doing a thing. You need to get it. And that's been, and a lot of times that has been the way. They're trying to shame people into doing stuff,
Yes.
versus saying, hey,
Yes.
here's a guy who did.
Well, that's
Yes.
That's why I appreciated your message yesterday on Men of Valor, because you weren't doing that,
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
but you were
Celebrating.
up and,
Yeah.
and putting them in a place to where they could recognize that this is what they should be.
Yes.
And where they want to be.
You cannot shame anybody into doing it.
No, it doesn't work.
I mean, it just doesn't work.
And I'm excited. I got another one next week. I'm talking about it. The good thing and bad maybe is that these 2 weeks kind of are mirroring each other because the kids are going to be in there. So I was going to try to do something short, and I'm going to use the scripture about arrows in the hands of a warrior, but I'm going to use Bruce. I don't know if anybody noticed it but me. When we went to Dan and Jill's house, and Jet walked outside, and like Bruce was sitting there, and I watched him, and I was like, what's he looking at? And I realized he's watching Jet, and like Jet's playing at the door or whatever, and Jet goes outside, and Bruce is like, he was about to say something, and he realizes no one's paying attention to him anyways, and so he just really nonchalantly walks over outside, and he has like a little smile on his face. He grabs Jet by the back, turns him around, just kind of pushes him back in the house and shuts the door. And I thought in the moment,
Village with Jess.
yeah. And the thing of it was,
Kids.
with all kids, but in the moment, what was really cool about that is number one, he noticed him. Number two, like it was fun for Bruce. You could tell like there was this fun thing on his face. Number three is that he could have said, "Hey, your kid's going out the door." You know what I mean? He didn't do any of that.
He's a grandfather.
He is a grandfather. And number four is like that is how you launch kids. Like you put your hand on their back and you guide them the right direction. You know what I mean? Like he didn't say anything to Jet. He didn't say anything at all. I don't think he uttered a word. And I just watched the whole thing. I was like, this is pretty cool. And so I'm going to use that. He doesn't know that either. So we got to celebrate and model those things. And so
Yes.
if you have stories like that of like, hey, somebody did something really cool, tell me about it and I'll find a way to work it into a message. I mean, that's important, So here's the reality that you have to have. Okay. I'm going to give you one more list. Ready?
So there's not a number 5?
No, number 5.
Okay, we're back to number one.
Oh my goodness. This is A. Okay.
I
Hey.
have a erasable pen, so you can
Okay.
do whatever you want.
If you don't like the culture of your ministry, this is really deductive reasoning right here, so it's really not a lot. If you don't like the culture of your ministry, or we don't like the culture of the church, and there's one of four things, or all four things are wrong. One, you're not the leader. Two, you haven't defined the culture. Three, you're not living it out. Four, you're not celebrating it enough. It's just backwards thinking of the last four things I told you. So if you don't like the culture of your church or ministry, then one, you're not the leader. Someone else is actually the leader. Two, you haven't defined what you really want. You haven't done a good job. They're just doing what they want to do. Three, you're not living it out yourself. Or four, you're not celebrating it enough. It's just deductive reasoning of the last four things I told you. All right. So with that, does anybody have any questions on that? Am I wearing you out with culture yet?
No.
Okay.
We figured out it's a big thing.
It is a big thing. I'm hoping so. Now, with that, here's kind of where we stand. Because I'm already writing messages on these, so we got to get this right. We're really working on, so here's what I explained last week to kind of catch you guys up. The way I see it, we really have 5 spiritual values. And then when we looked at the rest of the list, it was really 6 that were kind of what I would call leadership kind of based. So like the spiritual values are the word of God, worship, being spirit led, church is our second family and developing the next generation. Those are like spiritual, I think, values and truths. And leadership values are, I'm going to be faithful to what I do. I'm going to be faithful to my family, faithful to my church, serving, doing things with excellence, doing things as a team, dreaming big dreams, and to continue to learn. Those are kind of some leadership things. And really what we're focused on is the spiritual ones, because these are the ones I'm going to be preaching off of. So let me kind of work this out.
When are you starting preaching on these? Do you know that yet?
Yes. I can tell you. God willing, the first message. I think I am going to go ahead and the devotion I did with you guys on the 2 weeks ago, like the fundamentals of that. I did develop that into a message for out there, so people understand where I'm coming from on it. So my first one, where I'm actually going through the list, God willing, will be August 25th. So that's a ways out. But within that, one of the things that JH came up with last week as far as worship was that it was fellowship void of performance. Is that how we said that?
Mm-hmm.
Fellowship void of performance. I really do like that. I really think that I do like when it comes to family, working that in as somehow welcome to the family. Like that's something we can say really well. But that doesn't really tell us what that means. I feel like
You belong here?
I like the word family. I really want the word family in it somehow.
There's like on those signs that I'm looking at, pop signs, welcome to the family is really common.
Is it?
Well, I mean, I'm saying that in a good way, that would be one of the first things that, you know what I mean? You see from the road.
I like it.
And
But I have a
it's more
healthy view
felt
of
than
family.
felt anyway.
I like that. More felt than telt. That's good. I like that. You giving your husband a hard time?
Sorry.
That's good.
I like it. You giving your husband a hard time over there?
There's nothing wrong with that.
I like it. It's true though.
It is.
People have to like,
Yeah.
this can't be,
I've been to churches that have family everywhere and Panhandle up and says family, but when you walk in there, it's a clique.
Yeah.
You're not part of it.
Yeah.
Or you're totally ignored and you're like, why no one said hello to me today?
Yeah, well, they might be friendly, but you're on the outside.
You're not
Yeah.
part of the
I
friend.
mean, if you're the only one, if you're there and you're visiting, and the only one that makes you feel welcome is the RETARDED over here with the smile on his face, if that's the only one that makes you feel welcome, you got a problem, that's your.
Mhm. That is true. That's very true. I read this quote from Augustine, and this is I'm really using this a lot in my message. It says, where the Bible speaks, God speaks.
That's the one we're struggling with.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about
Foundation.
without the word of God, where the Bible speaks, God speaks.
I like that.
It's super simple, and like I instantly get what you're talking about. That's what I liked about that. It was in a
Yes.
sentence what it meant, but you didn't know if you liked it.
No, I like it. I just didn't know, do you have to put that Augustine said it whenever you do that? People
No.
think You're quoting other famous people and you're not doing.
No.
Well, he'd been dead for several hundred years. I don't think he would care.
Do it. Okay, then I
Yeah.
like it. I just think it's weird if you have to say Augustine said all the time. You know what I mean?
Patent. He said the patent ran out. I'm sure on that trademark is done gone.
Kind of like the hymn.
Yeah.
I really like
He
it.
lived about 300 years after Jesus, so it's
I
been
know
a few
that,
millennia.
but You know how people are
That
weird about
points people
stuff.
to the word instead
Yeah.
of their own assumptions of what they believe.
And it's the same as the Bible, the inspired word of God. That's what it's
Yes.
saying. It's just
Yeah.
saying it in a different
Yeah.
way.
I
Really
feel
like how it says that.
It is God's word.
It's like
It is God's word.
It's our basic fundamental of what we believe.
Yeah, I don't think you could say that any simpler
No.
than what he did, and like you instantly get it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like
Interpret that.
Oh, absolutely. I think like with family, we gotta put church as a second family. So welcome to the family. I feel like we gotta somehow connect that to what we're doing. Otherwise, I mean, I don't want to be like, what's his name, Jones down there drinking Kool-Aid in South America.
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones. We don't want to be that guy. Hudspeth is questionable.
Have you seen the
With what,
Facebook memes lately
family?
about?
I don't know, why am I questionable?
Oh
I
man,
drink
stand by. This is my
Kool-Aid.
loan officer. You guys argue about it.
Is he saying I
Hello?
drink Kool-Aid?
I think he's saying you aren't sure about welcome to the family.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
Have you seen
I do
the memes on Facebook that say, come in our store, we treat you like family, and they say, well, I'm not going in there.
Because
Yeah.
my family's
Yeah.
wild,
Yeah.
baby.
I saw that.
So I wonder if
I
people
like
are gonna be like,
welcome to
oh,
the
I don't wanna
family.
go there. It's like my family.
My family's gonna beat me.
Families are messed up.
That's true, especially here.
church is a second
biblical
family.
definition
Welcome to the family.
family.
That's too much.
And the cultural definition of family in the
Yeah.
country we live in,
Oh,
two
It's
horses
messed
and
up.
a different culture, I'm telling
yes.
you.
Mm.
Totally different.
We don't even have a mom and a dad anymore.
Well,
out there. They can't
yeah,
even say
they're
that.
so confused about family, they don't even know how to say it.
I love my lender, but man, she has been a pain in my side because they're constantly finding something else. And they're like, now you just print this off and scan it and send it back. I'm like, I don't have a printer and I don't have a scanner. How many times do I have to tell you
There's a
this?
scan on your phone. There's a scan I can do
Yeah.
for free.
I
just
could print
downloaded one last night.
Does it work good?
I haven't used it. I'm using
Jake
it
uses
today.
it all the time for
Okay.
work stuff.
Well, I told her we just run up there and sign it. And I know she has it. We have Grove. I don't know how
What
many
is
times.
it now?
I don't know.
It's always something.
Yeah.
There's always something though.
Always.
And they
Almost
sent,
done.
and what they do is they send us
Yes,
stuff,
you are.
and then we signed it and scanned it. Like the other day, we went to the church at Burgess. I went and found pastor and found the key, got in there, signed it, scanned it, sent it back to them, and then they're like, "Well, you're gonna have to actually reword it because it was wrong. The underwriter wanted it different." Like Charity, basically, she had to sign a piece of paper saying she doesn't have a job.
And I drove all the way to Grove to give it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, we had to add something else to
You don't have a job. You
You
don't.
don't plan on getting one.
No, it says you don't work at Claremore Sequoia High School, nor do you have a job in Uchi, Oklahoma. I'm like, why don't you just word this like, I don't have a job in Uchi, I don't have a job in Delaware County, the state of Oklahoma, the United States, international. I don't plan on going to the space
I
station.
am unemployed. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, golly.
Why would unemployed not cover everything? I mean,
You would think, would it not?
They're really, yeah, it's
Particular.
exhausting.
They get.
Oh, it is
picky.
exhausting.
They've been picky for a long time.
Oh, I forgot about the video. You just heard me rant about my.
You left
I
the
very
room.
much apologize. Yeah. Okay. All right, so where are we at?
We're on family. Church is a second family. Welcome to the family. That's too long, and that sounds awful.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So
We also established that some people have messed up families and they may not.
Want to come here for like their
to come.
family. Yeah.
It's a meme going on right now. Have
Okay.
you seen it?
No.
Where the store says, "Come in here, we'll treat you like family," and they say, "Nope, not going in there."
I
Okay.
think welcome to the family is fine.
But that doesn't sound like we value family. Welcome to the family. Is that what we're going to say? Or it doesn't feel like it tells me anything. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we value welcome to the family. Imagine this on a sign.
We're not going to put value, are we?
Well, I'm going to reference. Okay, so I go to get this message. We value welcome to the family.
Right?
You know what I mean?
No, you would say we value family and we want to welcome.
Yeah,
people.
you just added another sentence that you didn't like. It's too long.
I'm okay with saying a long sentence. I'm not okay with a paragraph on there about churches and family and welcome to the family. It's like 74 things. I don't.
That's
like
9
it.
words.
Sometimes you
It's
can't
too
convince-
wordy. It's not
convince
catchy.
That's the problem, ain't it?
It's not catchy at all if you have it like that.
Okay, so make it catchy, or it.
Well, I'm not saying I've got something catchy
Okay.
either, but I think that's too much. Let me think about it.
Because okay, so the problem is that with all this stuff, right? We value worship,
What if you said family?
and we believe that worship. We believe that worship is fellowship void of performance. Like I'm gonna have to say that with everything. So we value church being our second family. So welcome to the second. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, but
We've got to make them, we want you here. We want you.
We want you to feel belonged.
What
Yes.
about welcome home? That was another one. Like church isn't your second family. Welcome home. It said welcome to the family.
I want every kid to feel like when they walk into that building that this is their second home. And they do, or they wouldn't throw their clothes off and shoes and bags and everywhere.
How much clothes are they throwing off? Because that makes me nervous.
Walk in. Jackets.
Knox calls me into the
Shoes,
room to
everything.
show, look at my guy, look at him. He's naked.
Mario.
I'm like, Knox, that's embarrassing.
Feel at
to
home
me."
there.
Knox man did do that at church one time.
Oh,
Yeah, he's so embarrassed. Like he's gotten super modest. He didn't used to be modest. Now very modest. Okay. And so anyways, he walked into Rebecca's class. She had a special needs class. And he takes off his he walks in. He's the only one in there.
Goes.
Like he doesn't think. He takes off his shorts, he gets in his underwear, and he takes off his shirt, and his shirt's over his head. And they said that he looks. He realizes what he's just done. And he said his eyes got really bad. He's like, I'm sorry. He pulled his clothes back off. He was so embarrassed.
We don't want to be that comfortable.
No.
Exactly.
They're not that comfortable.
Yeah.
But they do
Not
throw
that
their
kind of-
shoes and jackets
not that
everywhere
kind
and try to.
I could tell you something about Pastor Robert Lucky.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I won't because.
That story is necessary.
Oh, it is now. It is now. You can't say. I
Better tell when I'm not here.
better stop the video.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to say this for later. Sorry, guys. All right. So
I see what you're saying, but I'm like, when you're talking, it's okay.
yes.
On a poster writing, church is a second family, welcome to the family, I'm like,
So the
why?
poster is just that. Welcome to the family.
You know
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Welcome to the family is the phrase.
So you want to say, okay.
But
So
you're
let's
thinking
pretend this is a
about how
poster.
to build
Okay.
this.
Let's pretend that we have 5 posters in the foyer.
Okay.
Okay. And we have one that says, we value. Okay.
The word of God.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what's on the background. Forget what's in the
Okay.
background. Okay. And then we put over here, word. Okay. And I don't know what the picture is here. We'll just put a little stick figure. Okay. He's
It's
happy.
like my stuff.
And then, yeah. And then we put, where word speaks, God speaks, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
This.
So then over here, we wanted just to say family. We value family. I mean, we value all family. I'm cool with that.
I get what you're saying.
And then welcome to the family. You want to put like 2 people over here so we got, you know.
Maybe 4. That'd be my family.
He's mad.
With red hair. That'd be Jake Hudspeth.
Mom, Dad, and a half,
I want another
2.5 kids.
There's no more
You wanna have a
donuts.
kid?
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta have a kid.
Yeah.
2.5.
Here's the deal though, family here is different. There isn't a mom and dad and kids.
Oh, I know.
There
Yeah.
is a foster mom, there is single moms,
Yeah.
there is
Grandmothers.
grandmothers
And that's-
with kids.
that's why-
There is
And I agree. And that's why I think,
single women. So the family
the word family is more important than home, in my opinion.
dictates
For that reason.
something different than mom and dad and 4.2 kids. You know what I
It
mean?
does. No, I agree. And I think that's why I think part of the terminology family is important because I want people to feel like they have,
That they
another
belong there
option.
Even though they're not mom and
Yes.
dad, a dog,
yes.
and 2 kids.
That's why to me, having the church as my second option, because when I preach this, my point is going to be, you might come from a terrible home. You might come from a great home, regardless of what your personal home life is like.
Yes.
This place needs to be your second family because Jesus said, you want to know who my brothers and sisters or my mom is? They're the ones who hear the word of God, right?
That's
Because
right.
they're like, hey, your mom's looking for you. He's like, who's my mom? These people are my parents.
Yeah.
That's why, for me, like the connection, I think that part is important on how we say it.
And to a lot of people in this congregation, it's a safe place.
Yeah, it needs
It's
to be.
not a safe place at home,
Yeah.
Family is
but it is at church.
So that's, I'm okay with just saying family. I want to make sure that we're
I
not,
understand what you're saying.
yeah.
I don't have my answer yet, though. What I'm thinking.
I understand I do agree with what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying.
But you're
Church is
wanting
second
to tie
family,
it to the
so welcome to
church.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're wanting to tie that back into the church.
Yes, because I think it's important to tie it back in the church so I
Yes.
don't come to you with my preconceived notions because we already are going to deal with that anyways.
Right.
I mean, almost everybody views God however they viewed their father,
Mm.
So when that's good, the craziest thing I ever saw is, we were sitting there after church one Sunday and Kelly Marone, love Kelly. She's awesome, right? We're sitting there. I don't even know how we got off on it. And she just starts crying. Like this was not a serious moment. She just starts crying. She looks at Pastor Michael, who's considerably younger than she is. She'd be mad if I say considerably, wouldn't she? There's at least a decade, I think, younger than she is. And she was talking about how she always viewed God like her dad. And she didn't have a dad. Terrible relationship, I guess. And
Her mom's married several times.
yeah, several
She had
times.
several dads.
And they have their own, she has her own family, great kids, probably, I would call her a spiritual mother in my life, So, we're not talking about somebody whose life's falling apart. And in this moment, she says, this is how I always, she said, you changed my perspective of God to Pastor Michael because you feel like a spiritual father to me,
Yeah.
which was crazy. So that aspect is really important to get right because people view God the way they view their dad or their parents. So,
Well,
Yes.
tied back to the word, we get if we value the word, then people know that we have a word view of the family.
Absolutely.
So what is this family here to do? Like, what are we here to be
What is
for
the
each
point?
other, to
Yeah.
do for each other? Maybe that could be in how we word it.
Well,
How do we define it?
How do we define family? Is it?
The biblical family.
The biblical church family that we're wanting them to be a part of.
Well, I think when you
Like,
start,
to lift each other up, carry
Yeah.
each other's burdens, that kind of stuff.
yeah, you start looking back at the Acts 2. They were eating with each other. They were having fun with each other, right? They were there to support
Praying
each
for
other. When somebody needed something, they helped
They
them
were
out,
always giving each other things.
Well, I had a woman in our church that was a church at the time, church secretary treasurer. And so she was complaining about this and that. And she called us over to her house at like 11 o'clock at night one time. And we were doing all this talking and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Judy, you can just fill it out because we're friends.
Mhm.
Yes.
You can just she looked at me and she said, you're not my friend.
Aw.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I said, I'm not your friend. And she said, we don't go to lunch together.
Mm.
And I said, okay,
Mm.
but I'm your friend. I'm your friend. You might not have accepted me,
Yeah.
but I'm your friend. You can tell me anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference. But that's what we've got to do.
Yeah.
We've got to make that person feel like they're the most
That's
important thing in the world.
And that's where the groups are going to be really important,
Yes.
you know, because it's going to be hard for you to take everybody to lunch.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just the reality. You got 5 days a week. I mean, it's just what it
See,
comes
the
down to.
woman that I grew up under in the ministry and went to Bible school, pastor's wife, I wanted to be like her. I was training to be a pastor's wife. And so I watched every move she made.
Yeah.
She was a beautiful woman, not physically necessarily, but beautiful.
Mhm.
And I watched her work the crowd.
Mhm.
And every time she was talking to somebody, you know what she was doing? They were just talking back and forth, and she was going. And she was looking. It was like, she made you feel like she was looking like for somebody better than you to talk to. That's what she made. And so I said, I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
I
If
like
I ever do
everything
that,
else she does,
I
but I
see
don't
someone
want to be that.
sneaking behind the building, just so you know, guys. I'm watching little people all the time.
Mhm.
So don't take it personal.
Yeah.
No, I'm
No.
telling you.
Right.
It makes
I'm
you
always
feel. It makes you
on.
feel.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel.
Yeah, I know
like you're
Yeah.
not important.
Yes, I know
When
what
you
you're
do
saying.
that. Just somebody.
You shut up.
I know what you're saying.
Talk to somebody else.
Mhm. Be present.
You need to make people feel like that you're really engaging them.
Yeah.
To use your term.
Yes.
We had a lady leave our church in Skytube one time because an old lady that had been there for many, many years.
Yeah.
Because a lady that came up the middle aisle, and I was standing there shaking hands as they went out, I said, how are you this morning? She said, good. She just started spitting out, and that wasn't the place. But her heart was broken. And so she just started telling me everything, and she was crying her heart out. And this lady came around, and I didn't speak to anybody else because this lady, her life was in my hands at the time.
Yeah.
And I went to her house and I said, Sister Thomas, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
You're leaving the church? Yes, I am. Why? Because you didn't speak to me.
Yeah.
And I said, but this lady, she said, it doesn't make any difference. You didn't speak to me.
It's
I said,
ridiculous.
but you're my mother in the Lord. You're my example that I'm walking behind you
Yeah.
in your footsteps. And this is the example that you want me to have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And she said, you can do whatever you want to. But she said, I'm leaving the church because you didn't speak to me.
Yeah.
I said, will you forgive me? She said, I forgive you, but I'm not coming back. Okay.
Age does not equal
Well, then God
spiritual
bless you.
maturity.
Get on over
No.
this.
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
Some people have been saved for 40 years.
That's crazy, though.
They were in
Still
the
in
way.
diapers.
That's crazy.
They were in the
It's
way.
amazing, though, that you can have such little compassion to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I'm out.
I like something J.H. just said, and I thought of a scripture that ties with it. What
What
you just said.
scripture? Well, I was just bouncing off ideas and I'm thinking if you say something along the lines of we're better together and tie that into the welcome to the family somehow, that says that you're needed here.
I feel like better together is used so much, though.
That is true. It is used a lot.
Oh, all the
That
time.
does tie into the scripture that says we're all one body, but many parts.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a place here in this family. There is a hand, there is a foot, there is a head. Everyone
Your
has
foot.
a place in the body of Christ. Oh, there's a place. I like that.
Is that like better together?
Sir, I mean,
I
I
don't know.
like
So there's
that.
something we can do with that.
I like the idea of everyone has a place in the family. Everyone has an important part, whether you clean the toilet, whether you're the pastor, whether you fill the baptistry, whether you're the welcome. There is a place here for you.
Are we overthinking this?
Yes.
I think we are.
Diana's struggling over here.
This is a slogan.
Yeah.
We could probably look up slogans online.
Oh, I mean,
If you say welcome
So
home, I
Let's
mean,
talk about number 3 and 5.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can come
Maybe
back to
circle back.
family.
I think,
It's stressing me out.
is it stressing you out?
Yeah.
You'll get over it.
What's
Well, I will, but I can't
Spirit led?
I can't think beyond.
Yeah.
I'm stuck.
Okay.
So I need to go to something else.
3. We got 10 minutes because I'm calling golf. Okay. Being spirit led.
What did we say last time?
Being spirit led. My goal is to be a blessing.
We talked about a lifestyle of blessing, living a lifestyle of blessing.
Yeah. And blessing is giving somebody what they need in the moment. Either be a testimony, either be it $5, either be it an encouraging word,
Yeah.
either be it a strong rebuke. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, I think you see that in scripture. I mean, I was talking about scripture, sometimes they sold their field and brought the money, and other times they went and they stood at the side of the road because God told them to, and then here come an Ethiopian eunuch. So
You gotta be listening,
how did you say that?
living a life.
Living a lifestyle of
Of
blessing.
blessing.
I was talking to the kids about that yesterday and teaching them how.
You like that, you said?
Mhm.
And you were teaching the kids that? I was listening to both things at one time. I was ignoring either one of you. Both of you have my full undivided attention at the same time. I would be very cool with that because that was kind of what the direction I was leaning anyways, as far as that. And then developing the next gen was number 5.
And so do you have a copy of last week's?
I do. I can send it to you.
You did?
I said I can.
Oh.
I thought I might have sent you the notes. I did not. The video didn't really work out.
Pastor Jamie, we
Developing
like
the
the
next
word
generation.
champion.
Champion.
Championing.
Championing. That's a hard word to
That's
say.
a hard word to
Champion.
say. We
Champion.
liked that word. That's what I've written down that we all liked.
What is it?
For the next generation.
Developing the next gen. I just put gen or oration because oration's a long word. I correctly just wrote it down though. I like the word champion. I use that word a lot. I like speaking life. I like that term.
I
too.
really like that's very
Speaking
important.
life into our next gen.
So we can't say next gen speaking life into the next generation.
Right.
So next gen speaking life into champions. We'll just throw it all together. Speak life.
Speaking life to the future. That sounds futuristic. I guess.
Speaking life
life.
to become the church of tomorrow. Speaking life.
Passing it on.
To speaking life to. He came in like Kramer, kind of slid around the corner.
You don't want any s'mores. You don't have to eat anymore.
We're almost done, bud. You've been awesome. Speak life to. I don't think the future is actually nearly as crazy as you think it is. Speaking life to. Because, like, to me, when I think about developing the next
Church of
generation,
today to become the church of tomorrow.
you really are championing them, right? Like,
I really like the word champion.
but how do you?
I know. I don't know how to put it in.
Champion the next generation.
The thing you could. The problem with that, to me, using the word champion, is what does it mean to champion somebody? Or when I say speak life to someone, I mean, I think at the end of the day, probably your words are the most powerful thing you have.
We're
It's power of life and death.
speaking life to them. We're launching them. We're equipping them.
That is
we're
correct.
Developing them.
That is correct. I agree with you. And all those things are important. To me, those
Just put next gen instead of developing next gen. And then
Yeah.
put that in your phrase.
next gen
Developing our leaders of today to become the leaders of tomorrow.
sounds like a
It sounds like a college
business.
speech.
Yeah.
High school
I'm a
graduation.
really good writer.
You could go be
I
president.
can write speeches.
Time the future to the past.
Tying the future to the past.
That's what we're doing. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
necessarily the thing. Making
Can't
sure
be
the legacy
future
of the
leaders.
gospel goes
It
on.
can't be.
Yeah, I
No, that wasn't a deal. That's just what we're
I
trying
just
to
feel
do.
like speaking life isn't.
don't. It doesn't
It's
tell
good,
you
but
what.
it
doesn't tell you
encompass
what.
we are
No.
doing. We're doing way more than just speaking life. We're equipping and engaging the next generation to become the future leaders.
But if you don't speak life, none of that's gonna happen.
It's
Exactly.
more than just speaking it. We're equipping them. We are teaching. We're training. We are.
What's
Launching.
the word that sums all of
We're
those
speaking
things
in
up?
Champion.
Developing.
Yes,
Developing.
developing. It
Champions.
implies we're doing more than just saying it.
Developing champions. Then everybody has it.
Developing. That's
I was saying if you take develop out of the term, then you can use that.
I don't know. Developing champion sounds like a football thing that I put over the door that they slap on the way out before they get their butts kicked.
Like the wrestlers before they go.
All right, we've hit the wall.
Speaking life as we develop, no, that's too long.
Developing followers of God.
This one is done. I'm done with this. So we're
Yes.
stuck with that.
And you're
Okay.
done with
I'm
worship.
starting this one this week, so I can work with that. Okay. I can work with this one. Okay.
And you were gonna tie outreach into that too, kind of, right? I don't know if it's-
Well, being a blessing is whatever somebody needs in the moment. You know, like the Good Samaritan, he was a blessing because the dude was dying. He needed some help. You know,
Right.
it's the family
That's
thing.
part of our values too, is you're tying that into that.
Yes, I think when it comes to family, I mean, we value family, so welcome to our family. I mean, I think we're ultimately going to have to just stick with welcome to the family. If I was to today, and then I will just explain that, because I think that is going to have to take different faces. I think the problem that we're having with both of these last two is worship. The Bible's the Bible. Being spirit-led, living a life of blessing is kind of obvious. But what we're trying to do is trying to squeeze so much into families. You're like, well, different situations
That's a
require
huge-
different definitions. And
Yeah.
so I think what we need to do is there's going to be different times when welcome to the family is going to have to mean different things. And if we just stick with that, then we can make it
We're all
fit
brothers
whatever.
and sisters in Christ. I mean, we are. Jesus is our brother and that kind of thing. That what the true
It is, but I don't,
family is.
again, it's
Instead
getting
of
wordy and you know what I mean?
I
but
think
being more general instead of
if you leave it at welcome to the family, then you can make it work, because there's gonna be times that, that's gonna apply to, this is your family and you take ownership in it, and you step up and you be
Yes.
a part. But also there's a place for you whenever you feel like you're an orphan or you don't have a place to belong, or there's a million factors. Yeah,
We're going to make that decision.
okay.
When you
We
said
value
welcome
family,
to the
welcome
family,
to
the first time my brain went ding.
Okay, so we're going with that. So that leaves the last one is developing the next generation. And we'll figure that out next week because we've been here too long. We're going on 2 hours. So thank you guys for coming. Love each and every one of you.
I have a quick question. I don't think there's anything else that needs to go on the bulletin that's coming up. Is there?